Slice me nice.
Slice me nice. Now it works.
Was it working when you were speaking?
No.
It wasn't.
No.
Do you want to say your stuff again?
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Let's, I mean,
Yeah, we're getting better at this. We're good at governance stuff much more than what we are at production, but we're getting better at. So the ICM is something. The ICM standard is something that we've been working on with some other protocols. We hope that you'll join us in working on it. The two things that have been clear is that protocols need to give a certain level of transparency, and then a certain amount of control to token holders. That's really what it boils down to. You should be able to look at your token holding and how it corresponds to what you're entitled to. To be able to know what you're entitled to, you need to know what's there. That's why transparency is important. You should be able to know, just like a publicly traded company, how much money is in the bank account, how much has been spent on different things. If we're going to be saying that these tokens have some sort of rights and that they are good investment opportunities, you have to expect that you know how the company is running and how the company is going to be run. And most importantly, what are your rights associated to that? Do you have the ability to claim some of the revenue? Do you have the ability to change something in the management? So that's what we're trying to do with this show and this process. We've had some cool discussions previously. Today, Adrena came on as our thought, as a focus, because recently the team came out and said, you know what, we don't want to do this anymore. They've kind of, since clarified that even though we don't want to do this, this is a DAO, right? This is a protocol. This is a decentralized protocol. So we are going to be discussing this with the DAO. And I thought it was a beautiful moment. I'm going to be honest. I went and bought a lot of Adrena as a result. So would I invest? Yes, I've already done that. And I'm hoping that by the end of this conversation, maybe I can convince some of the other guys to join me on that investment. So let's say the first round, we focus on transparency. And there's three protocols. We're really focused on Adrena. Adrena, I think, is at the highest level of transparency you can get. If you go to either their realms or to their site, which is adrena.xyz, and I'm not sure if we can show the audience the Adrena website while we're talking, but they have on their site, on the monitor, you can see every kind of metric. And, it's really important is not so much how the protocol is running. There's a lot of transparency around how the protocol runs for Flash Trade as well and for Drift as well. But you see the raw token emissions, you see the vesting stages, and then if you go to the realms, you see exactly how much money the protocol has. Now, I tweeted this earlier that I would give half a soul to anybody that could answer where I can find the treasuries of the other two. Drift does have a realms, but there's nothing in that realms. So I assume there's a multi-sig somewhere. If you can give us the link, if somebody watching this can share the link to either the Flash Trade multi-sig or the Drift one, that would be great. But this is part of the transparency that I think that we need to work on as an industry is understand, okay, what are the assets? How are they being used? Maybe that's not part of my rights, but that should be clearly stated that, like, you know what? Your rights end at, this point where you will not have transparency into how we're operating the company with what we've raised, but you have unlimited transparency in how we're running the protocol. So on the transparency score, I would give the highest one to Adrena because, as I said, I can see how much the treasury has. I know how much the fees are accruing. And then on both Drift and Flash Trade, they both show how much fees are making. But in both instances, we don't know how the financials are looking. At least I don't know. I've tried to look around. Chris, I know you were looking for the squads of or something, a multi-sig for Drift.
I did find a bunch of multisigs named Drift, or at least that kind of look like they are set up by Drift, but I don't know if I found them all. I don't know the total amounts to kind of compare my findings and understand what I'm missing. What I really appreciate on the drift side is how detailed their constitution is and how well they lay out the different ways they're going to react depending on the what the market and the ecosystem brings them, which I think this gives them points. The Adrena, on the other hand, I am not sure on how detailed they go on the possible governance scenarios they can face. So I would reduce a little bit the score of Adrena just because on the transparency side, just because the detailed bylaws or constitution are not sufficient in my mind. There is room for improvement, small improvement, but in my opinion, it lowers a little bit the score. At the same time, no matter how much you try to have a constitution in place, you cannot possibly predict all the scenarios that the market will bring you. And what happened with Adrena was unique, and the way they had to deal with it was also pretty unique. I want to hear from Legend, who is the strictest when it comes to this kind of constitutions and procedures.
GM. I mean, regarding constitutions, is that you gotta know to read between the lines. Like if you go, let's say, not even from Flash Trade to any DAO that we mentioned, but we go to Meta DAO, raises you, and you go read the constitutions they got from I think MeDAO, the recent ones at least. If you read between the lines, you could say the holder doesn't have much ownership. He's not as much liable. That's the whole reason being in Web3 and the crypto startups having this type of protection is protection for the team and for the holder itself. So it's not much of an ownership. It's just the project cannot be, hunted by the SAC, right? And I want to touch another thing is that besides constitutions and stuff, Drina almost shut down recently. Topic we discussed now in the beginning, and another protocol, not much a protocol, but a hedge fund that also shut down. And we all know what was Mountain DAO, which was a fund that was funded, and went down while giving every holder back their investor. So I think that was the first fund/protocol that widened down through governance and gave some type of investor protection to the holders in some way. Now, the governance proposal had to pass, and the team had to custom build some type of redemption model. The question here is any team obliged to build this redemption website for every DAO protocol owned by MetaDAO? Who does this? And the question here is for Adrena. If Adrena shut down, really, how much the investors or the holders were entitled to redeem? And Adrena, from what I know, has 13600 worth of assets in the DAO. So you as a holder, as a voter, you are entitled to 136 of the DAO itself as a holder of ADX. While Flash Trade, if you go to the MetaDAO treasury, they are custody of, they have 0. So Flash Trade goes down, you get nothing. I might be wrong, but the same goes to Drift. If Drift went to shut down, the DAO has nothing to give, you get nothing as well. So the Adrena here is the only one. While the protocol has shut down, the community can go ahead and use the DAO assets for something else. Like, let's say you want to do Adrena V2, completely different team, can use the same token, same mechanism, and go ahead. Another thing to notice is that the DAO owns the programs. So you can do anything from the DAO framework they offered. So Adrena shutdowns, you still have the programs. You can change the PPS, you can change the trading fees, completely different team. Anything is customizable. It's the same for Flash Trade and Drift. From what I'm aware, Flash Trade program upgrades are done through a multisig, and that multisig is 2 out of 7. So it just takes 2 people to, be compromised, and the whole protocol shuts down. not much decentralization here, but that also can be discussed, along the way. Like, not every protocol starts from a decentralized process and goes from a centralized to a decentralized, progress, I guess.
I want to ask you something because I understand the problem when the multisig needs 2 out of 7 votes to pass something. But if we translate this into token governance, is it much better? Like the quorum could be very high. It might give the perception of, hey, this is a decentralized way of dealing with things, of program updates and changing parameters. But if the quorum, let's say, is high and most of the token is held by the team, it gives the impression of decentralization, but in reality, you need the team to propose and the team to vote for anything to upgrade. So you might, depending on the parameters, you might have a multisig that is more decentralized than token voting. There is a scenario. If 90% of the token is held by the team and you need a large amount of tokens to make a proposal and a large amount of tokens to pass the proposal, it gives the impression that it is very decentralized, very community-based, but in reality, it is not. Of course, this is not the case 100% with Adrena, but still the criticism out there is that you need the team to propose, you need the team to pass, otherwise nothing really happens.
Yeah. I looking at the 3, I also see that maybe there's not the same intention to be a DAO or decentralized. I'm trying to learn more about Flash Trade, and I don't think that there's an intention to be a DAO there. So it's like, okay, would you invest if I come out and just straight up tell you, I don't want your token holding to entitle you to anything. Like, I will decide what that token will be for you. That token helped me fundraise, and if I still have token, which my understanding is they don't, yeah, I don't see the investment
Great.
like I'm not interested in purchasing something that I have zero it's like control or like at any moment you can just turn around and change your mind on how you treat that instrument. So if you have a token out there that's connected to your protocol, and you can unilaterally change all of the different things around your protocol, yeah, I'm not interested in that. I really hope that that's not the case. And I ask for forgiveness when there's ignorance on this, but I've tried my best to find the assets, and really those are the 2 things. First, it's transparency. If I don't have transparency, I have to assume I have no control because, like if I can't see what we have and what we're doing, I definitely have no ability to then change what we have and what we're doing.
I want to ask, so for Drift, to compare it with Adrena, we have a DAO on Realms that is mostly used as a
100%
it only,
sentiment only.
It's sentiment only because it has no money, and it also has only 12 members.
And I noticed that there's no proposal that had instructions.
Yes, true. And also 12 members only. So from what I see is this is where constitutional changes would happen. It has to happen through token voting, while the incentive treasury is covered by Futarchy. So if the not the incentive treasury, the community initiatives Let's put it that way. This is governed by Futarchy. So any extra spending for the community, any other non engine upgrades or any changes in any non-changes in constitution would happen through Futarchy. So this should give them some extra points at least. Or you think not, that Futarchy is not really adding any protection and ownership layer?
Yeah, in the case of just drift, not flash trade.
Just drift.
In the case of drift, my understanding is can the proposals be put up by anybody on their Futarchy? I don't know. Yeah,
Let me check.
Yeah, I like the ability to propose. I don't even know what's in the treasury for me to propose something. Like, if I'm correct, the Futarchy there was meant to be for grants.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
How much of a grant do I ask for?
Shouldn't MetaDAO be publishing these treasuries?
Yes.
So this is a failure from MetaDAO.
I think that's.
They publish the treasures.
Where do you see them?
So if you go to the V1 version of MetaDAO,
Yeah.
you go to organizations and every organization.
Tell people. I'll look it up.
So if you go to V1 of MetaDAO, there's organizations, right? It's every protocol that adopted
Yeah.
Futarchy early on, and each one I think has the treasury address and there's the DAO address. And the treasury address on most of them, if not all, besides MetaDAO itself, they own zero. So the DAO owns zero, which by speculation,
Island is it connected to our actual treasury?
no, Island DAO treasury is on NAMs.
Right.
Yeah, but
So
MetaDAO,
even though that we have our Futarchy set up, it never could have actually pulled. It was
no.
never connected to enforcing it.
The only connection here is the ownership thing. They say it's enforced. So by law, you are enforced to transfer the funds from the multisig you own to the acceptance of the proposal itself. So the proposal passes, give me the 5K. And the DAO doesn't own anything, but the multisig you're, owning, it's obliged by law to give you the 5K. That's the whole point of ownership in a way. Besides other points, of course, generalizing a lot. But yeah, most treasuries are zero, and of course, most protocols have their money stashed in a multisig. And going back to the team being able to put proposals and the team owning most of the tokens, I think it's way better the DAO, the team being able to own most of the tokens and putting proposals if the community can veto. Like in Flash Trade case, only the team can put proposals. What's the point? While having the team owning the most tokens makes sense. Like, who's gonna work? Who has more skin in the game? If not the team, they have the most to lose if the protocol doesn't work out. Which, of course, you can distribute better later on. Of course, there's sell-offs, exits, acquirements, mergings. But I think it's better to have a model where the community can veto team proposals, while where a model where the community does nothing. Like, there's no point to the token. And there's protocols that have no token, and they're good products. That we had the very early Solana days. We had Francium, if you still remember.
Yeah.
It was very similar to what protocols are today, like Delta Neutral. If you from Drift, it's from the program. Was very similar. It's a lending and borrowing protocol with some vaults. You can earn an APY. And Francium never had a token. It was a very good product. As a holder, as a user, you cannot dictate what the protocol gonna do, pivot or change. It's 100% team that changes the protocol. Now we have in the recent days, in the recent trending protocols, we have Hilo. Hilo, yet doesn't have a token, but they manage 100% of the protocol and sees its success purely by the team changes and fees, whatever changes they want to do. So, which kind of touches what Dean said before. Even if would you invest in this? I mean, if you are a user and you like the protocol, you could invest in equity wise, I guess, and not token wise. But if the protocol releases a token and that token is supposed to be for governance, then the community needs to be able to change something. Now, if you have if you have a token, the community cannot change fees, values, protocol changes, program upgrades, and what's the point? They can't do anything. You should not invest.
Yeah, and please, correct our ignorance. If it is, if there's a program that's been frozen, if it is encoded for all eternity that the flash trade token is bought back by fees, correct us. Like, if it is humanly impossible that never changes, would be good to know. But yeah.
It doesn't need a lot of searching. I mean, like you can see who's a DAO and who's not. And clearly, Drift is positioned itself as a DAO. Same as Adrena. Flash trade, maybe a bit less. You can see it on the total proposals casted, like how many proposals have throughout the life of Drift and all these users and all this evolution and development. I can count 8 proposals on Futarki, on MetaDAO. 8 proposals. While I'm looking at Adrena and I see like 200 plus proposals. It's a huge difference. I see 217 proposals and 1,300 members. That's it. From the metrics only, you could see that there is a DAO and they are taking decisions. While I'm looking at the drift list on MetaDAO, and I can count 8. 6 passed, 2 didn't, and none of them were very important. It's like a lot of them are also prioritize listing meta,
And these are all polling.
There's all all polling. Nothing is connected with on-chain instructions. So yeah, who's more of a DAO? Who would I pick if I had to rate them on investor protection and investability of the token when it comes to protection, shareholder protection? Clearly, Adrena is doing it better, while Drift talks a lot on how DAO their processes are. I don't see any treasuries, any instructions, or any number of proposals to support such a thing.
Yeah, I think that, Flash Trade's clearly not a DAO. Probably doesn't want to be. Not sure how that translates to token value, but let's not go in circles on that. Drift has the chance. I think there was a poor decision into spending a lot of time on the Futarki side, and that made it very difficult for the community to understand, okay, where do you want us to be? And like out of nowhere, Drift could easily match Adrena on its investor protections. It would be interesting. I've seen a lot of discussion around the Drift considering going over to Futarki. That would be great, because it would finally be a good kind of like apples to apples, like seeing a completely decentralized token governance with Adrena, and then a similar product, a completely decentralized Drift product with Futarki. Even though we're part of the Realm side of things, we want there to be really good experimentation. And if everything were governed there, and there were a treasury governed there, and there were, good investor protections, that would be really exciting. And when I was going through MetaDAO, I didn't realize none of their recent launches has done a single proposal since launching.
Umbra has.
Yeah.
Omnipair.
I don't think it was Umbra. I think it was just Omnipair. Let me check again.
No, Umbra has for the audit.
You're right. Okay. I see here 0 past proposals on their old UI. So maybe they stopped updating the old UI. Okay, now I have to check the new UI.
Going deeper into investor protections, who is eligible for this investor protection? Only the investors who participated in a public round, private round for these projects, or you consider all holders equally protected?
I think it should be all holders.
Because
These are fungible tokens. The rights should be fungible.
because we can see, Flash, Adrena, they raised all of them very differently, right? Adrena raised most of their liquidity, seeding through, angels and core contributors initially. Drift had, bigger seed A, seed B rounds, if I'm not wrong, way bigger capital. And Flash Trade, they seeded their liquidity through NFTs. So you could say to, NFT investors slash buyers are the ones, eligible here. Like how did the NFT redemption into token protected you from the current, price if you want to exit or something? Like, these are the most question here. Maybe I'm
It
wrong.
wasn't Umbra around the audits. It was Omnipair. I feel very confident that if you're into perp markets, the safest investment based on the protections is that all 3 have great products. Like, let's not. Oh, so wait 1 second, man. This ended, but it's not show. You saw where I went to.
So
to
it is
see
the
this.
current Metadata website.
Okay, and I do all projects, and then I go down here to decisions.
So decisions will back to V1.
Okay.
I mean, that's just a technique. How do you call it? Technicality. Technicality. So yeah, not a big of a deal.
Here, I see.
Yeah, no big deal. I happen to know it, and I happen to be part of the news too. Like, you need to be part of the governance shenanigans that happen every day. What else?
So you can see the treasuries here. If I write a different project, will I be able to see the treasury?
So most of the treasuries on MetaDAO are from the public raise done through MetaDAO. So that raise, it's public. But of course, but you can find the treasury. Just flash trade the Dream and Drift on the private treasuries. You just cannot find.
Oh, and you can only find the treasuries. You can only see where the money that was launched was, but you don't know what they're doing with that money. I see. You know that they're getting an allowance. You don't know what they're doing with their allowance. That's fine.
Yeah, for the recent MetaDAO launch, yeah,
To do it.
that's fine. That's super transparent from the MetaDAO side and their launches, having a raise. The raise treasury is public. The spending limit is also public and goes to an address.
Yeah.
That's the most transparent you can be on the ICM standard. Is having a raise, the money is there, being streamed as a salary, as a budget for the team to work on, and that's it. While the 3 projects we are talking today, Flash, Adrena, Drift, it's way harder to know. I mean, it's not, you can find on chain for sure, but if you spend 30 minutes on all of 3 of them, it's be very hard to find. At least the public ones on MetaDAO and Realms is very easy to find. What does the DAO is entitled to or being able to work on with. But the private, I kind of listed them as protocol revenue. If I'm not wrong, I put Flash to 50% of the protocol revenue goes to the protocol, slash team, I can say. Maybe I'm wrong. Adrena just recently takes 10%. So Adrena is the lowest of them all. So Adrena just takes 10% of the protocol revenue as a team revenue to maintain the protocol and, pay salaries, pay audits, pay whatever needs to be paid. And Drift has the highest revenue share of the protocol, up to 80%. Which, of course, 80%, goes into different things. Maybe they sponsor this, but Adrena being the lowest and Drift being the highest in terms of protocol share. But the multi-sigs and addresses of the protocol revenue had a hard time to find it. just time consuming. Besides the public DAO owned, which are very easy to find with one click in terms of transparency. Yeah, but if we're gonna touch on other protocols from MetaDAO and the Solana ecosystem, the MetaDAO ones are the most easiest to find in terms of transparency. And ICM standard.
Recent MetaDAO.
Yeah, the recent ones. Yeah, specifically MetaDAO launches, not projects that adopted the footer key standard.
Yeah. I agree with that. That the highest level of the thing is, I don't know so much about like the protocol itself. So none of the code is controlled by the
Which protocol here are you talking about?
I don't know. Let's start with Umbra. Is that also controlled by the?
Most likely not.
Okay.
Like the protocol upgrades are done by the team.
Whereas
By
the Adreno one, for example, is controlled by the DAO.
Yeah.
Okay. So from an asset standpoint, the highest level of transparency today would be, that money raised, but how about the fees? Where are the fees going to go back to? You don't have that transparency
either. It has
either.
to be owned by the DAO, and proposal to change has to be owned by the DAO.
Yeah, but none of that's owned by the DAO.
So there's this discussion where we had before.
Only the money raised is shown to you with the MetaDAO launches. But you have no clarity on what the fees from the protocol are doing.
It goes back to that discussion where we prefer the team to have a multi-sig to control all these assets and programs. So we prefer a team that owns a multi-sig with no token value, just individual assets to control these programs and assets, or you prefer a team that holds a lot of tokens, but it happened through proposals more transparent and decentralized way, where the community can veto.
I like the combination of multisig and veto a lot, where the team that manages the program each member holds a key, and they can propose. They can propose to raise spending limits. They can propose to do a massive campaign to spend more. They can propose a bunch of things, and anytime any of these proposals that are connected with instructions which spend money, that they will withdraw money from the treasury and distribute it, those could be vetoed by the community. So I think it's a combination. And what kind of this part of the conversation, what reminds me, what brings into my mind, is this specific comment. Let me put it on my screen. So I'm sharing this. So this is Adrena posting community owned, showcasing their DAO, their proposals, etc. And underneath there is a comment saying, "Yet nothing can pass without the team. The space is just filled with bullshit people." What do you think about this comment?
From who?
Does it change anything in the conversation?
Oh, no, I don't think it does.
Because it ties a little bit to what Legend just mentioned, that what do you prefer? A token governance where the team holds a lot of token, or a multisig where the community can veto?
Oh, well, it in the veto. Does the team also have most of the coin for the veto? Like, I'm gonna assume that
it would be irresponsible if the team didn't have the.
I meant squads multi-sig.
Assuming that they don't. Yeah, I'm assuming they don't have enough, or they are not allowed to cast veto on their own.
I mean, that comment, it makes sense. Like, the team owns the most tokens, which I agree. They direct the protocol, but it's just a different way of seeing. Just a different way to see how much the team directs the protocol, because the Adrena guys are doing the most of the changes in realms, protocol upgrades, BPS changes, how much the fees, and they're done through decentralized way, very transparent. Everything is on chain, everything is programmable. It's done through instructions on chain. to do these changes, they do it on realms, and they have token to do these changes, and they need to reach quorum as well to do these changes. And to do these changes, the community can participate and help doing these changes, and they can also vote no to not apply these changes. Let's say Adrena plans to go now to 20% of protocol revenue. Okay, they can reach quorum by themselves. Well, what's the rest then? The community can vote no to deny these changes. Now, let's take another scenario. Instead of the team owning tokens, they own the private multisig. Let's take Flash Trade. Flash Trade will do a change to change the protocol revenue to 10 to 20%. Where does community come here? It's just a multisig 2 out of 7. It's not public. It's private. Community has no say in this. Cannot do anything. Cannot participate. It's the same. Is the community, the team owns the most of the assets that you're not trying to change, which is the program. It's the same picture. It's just different way of seeing this. And it's worse. It's less transparent. While the Drina guys are doing it in a more transparent way, and getting everybody input.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Legend, because I love I'm so glad that Legend joined on this. I'm looking at the squads of Umbra.
Mm-hmm.
How is this proposed and executed?
Can you share the link so we can share it in the screen as well?
So I got it from the MetaDAO projects.
Umbra.
No, it's metadao.fi/project/Umbra. No, Avicii's over here. I'm looking at Umbra here. And just to make sure I'm looking at it here, we'll start from the beginning. That way we don't.
We're going to Umbra.
I like how we were focused on
Do I work for MetaDAO now? I need to explain everything.
Yeah. I mean,
I'll try to explain because I checked as well.
so
and,
here's the squads. Just my understanding was the only thing that can make a transaction was the futarchy.
Yes.
Well, there was never a vote for $20, was there?
Might be.
The team uses this.
This is a spending limit, no? So by members, they have only one, which should be the program that owns. So the member is a program, it's a futarchy program.
One moment. For our viewers, can you share the link to show it someone and then you show it without here? Yes, this is the view. Okay. Let's use this so people who are watching, they can understand what we're talking about. So this is the Umbra squads. And we can see send $105,000, send $34, send $20 twice. So this was to the key.
So from what I can see, most of these arbitrary, let's say, dynamic transactions are from the spending limit, while the big sends are from the proposal, which the last one was the 105K audit. It makes sense. Yeah, it's not from the spending limit. While the other ones, you can see lower values and they are from the spending limit. Now, it's, I'm not sure. Like I'm not too knowledgeable how the spending limit works here. If it's attached to a wallet and the wallet can spend as much as is it allowed per month, which should be the intended purpose here, but that's how should it will work.
Yeah, there's some sort of somebody's going in and saying, I need money. And because it's within the approved amount of money, you can take it.
Yes, anybody can go and see the money going out of the treasury, and the spending limit is agreed upon before the launch, which I think Umbra was how much, 100K.
Yeah, very cool.
So yeah, like the thing with Umbra now, if they wish to lower, which should be not the case with most teams, but let's say they want to increase the spending limit to a higher one. Let's say they want to increase the budget.
They want to hire me.
Hire more people, so have to have more budget. So they'll probably go through a Futarchy proposal to hire to increase the spending limit, and most likely, the program attached to the squad itself will, increase the spending limit for them.
Very cool.
So yeah, I think the MetaDAO launches, native launches are the most transparent in terms of spending and transparency in general for the treasury. While protocols that adhere to the Futarchy standard in terms of treasury, they're not the ideal ones. Let's say Drift, for example, Island just has one treasury which in drums can be very easily verifiable.
Integrated, yeah.
No, but do you think this is just because Drift and Island DAO and these guys were the first movers in Futarchy governance, which means the engine was not ready, all these things were very experimental? Because I can see the improvement from, the protocols that are adopted Futarchy versus the protocols that launched through MetaDAO Launchpad. Because as you said, it's very easy to integrate a realms treasury, and it should be the standard one. It's either you have a squads or you have a realms. There's no other real solution out there. So I think this is just the evolution of the launchpad on the right direction, of course. I'm very, very pleasantly surprised on how transparent all these launches are. I'm impressed.
I think is lack of alignment, to be honest, because most of the protocol, let's pick the protocols that do buybacks. What are these buybacks owned by the protocol or owned by the community? What is buybacks for? Because if it's owned for the community, you can take Jupiter, you can take Radium, you can take Orca, you can take Drift. Where is buybacks going for? Is it going to a multi-sig or is it going to the DAO treasury? Most of the cases, they're not going to DAO treasury at all. The Jupiter is a more, special case because the highest, the most scaled DAO, which I think they might have their own reasons. Although the walls are public, the DAO doesn't own nothing. They're able to vote. Now, by the constitution, by law, if the vote go pass through, it's that thing. By law, you need to execute this multi-sig transfer to give money or grants. But like the Radium buybacks are not going to DAO treasury. Orca buybacks, if they have any, I might be wrong. They're not. Metaplex buybacks, Metaplex goes to the treasury. So the Metaplex buybacks are the only ones now that you mentioned I'm aware of. Of course, if I do a little more study, I can find other ones, but are the only ones, the biggest ones we know that goes to DAO treasury. So the DAO owns that buybacks. They're able to do anything, be it a grant, being some type of investment, anything they want to do with that Metaplex, it's owned by the DAO. This was something I want to touch upon. Like most of the buybacks, the DAO just doesn't own them. Like it's not transparent what those buybacks do with them, and in the final scenario, they are not aligned with the DAO. I guess that's the most view I can say, at least.
Do we know anybody that flies back in birds?
The most recent one was Jupiter, if I'm not wrong. They bought to the litter box a lot of Jupiter with all the fees from the Perps platform, and they
Has that as well.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
But Jupiter made a proposal. We should burn them or not.
Mari did as well.
Jupiter passed. Jupiter proposal passed on burning them, and they, by constitution, they had to burn the tokens.
And they provided the tooth.
Yeah. Now, is this what we qualify as an ICM or, governance or transparency in general? Like, how there's a spectrum of ICM. How ICM are you on this spectrum? That's the whole goal here. And what's the benefits and the cons? Like, what's your goal here? Is being, the most transparent protocol you want to be, and giving your token holders and, let's say, token investors like these reports, like traditional startups do. These what monthly, quarterly reports where financials, gains, revenue, and that is spectrum basically.
So, I came into this thinking that Adrena is probably the most transparent of all setups. And I want to understand, in the MetaDAO ownership ones, how do I know where any earnings go? Like, I understand exactly on chain where all of the earnings from fees from Adrena go, how they're used, and then how I have the ability to speak on how they're used, or maybe even change the fees that are going. For any of the other launches, choose any of them. How do you see where that money is going, and how do you, without seeing it, obviously you can't really make a decision, but how do you see where it's going? Where does it currently go?
Win the revenue.
Do any MetaDAO launches make any revenue?
Yeah,
Where does it go?
to the treasury most likely.
Most likely, or it does go to the treasury?
Most likely, because I'm not 100% sure. I need to check.
So that's the question I would have in general is, where does the revenue go? And then do you, as a token holder, have a mechanism to change that? Yeah, you would go to the Futarchy market and say, hey, more of this token, more of the fees should be used in this way or that way. Like, that's another thing you could vote on.
So MetaDAO is using Meteor program or launchpad, I think a forked version of it. And every MetaDAO launch goes through Meteor.
That's for the AMM. I'm
Yeah,
talking
for the
about I'm talking about the revenue that the protocol would make. Forget the
So
AMM.
that the revenue comes from the MM launches.
That's the only revenue they have.
So far, yes. From what I'm
So all of the revenue of these so far has nothing to do with the tech they're building. It's just their token trading.
So far, the revenue came from the AMM, from the launchpad.
Yeah.
I might be wrong,
I'm very happy with Adrena. I would put them at one of the highest levels of
but I'm
investor
pretty sure they
protection.
made some revenue on the Futarchy, markets too. It's just lower revenue.
Like, what I like about the setup again for Adrena is I know every single answer, and I know with 100% certainty I can find the answer for any of the questions. I might not like the fact that the team has a lot of the voting power, but I know every single bit. I know where the money's being made. I know where it goes after it's made.
Sorry. Why is this so important for an investor to know exactly where everything, not every nook and cranny, that has to be transparent for the investors? Like, are we talking about like the most intelligent investor out there? Like, why this is this very, very important? Information symmetry is what makes markets efficient and competitive. Otherwise, the game would be rigged. Everybody needs to have access to information to make your own assessment. So transparency is extremely important. And my question to add to yours is, so we would need to see also taxation and how they adhere to all the regulations and jurisdictions out there with risk taking and protecting investors. And I'm not saying investors holding their token, but investors actually using their platform, since they're perpetual trading engines. So in an ideal world, we should be able to see their tax filings and yes, and where they're incorporated and what is exactly the process there, and how is liability not transferred to token holders. Because DAO's good and DAO's fine, but am I really a DAO member if I haven't KYC'd, if I'm not protected with a legal wrapper around it? I know MetaDAO has done the research, and they are pushing on a structure, a legal structure that allows for these investment grade tokens. But there's still a long way for this 100% transparency to get there. Yes.
Yeah, to go to your question on why it's important, rules can change, sentiment can change. The less I know, the more likely things can be changed without me understanding what's been changed or what like when you're playing a board game, you know the rules, you know that when you roll the dice, you move this many, like, you know everything, you can see everything on that board game. When you're playing Monopoly, you see how much money everybody owns, and you see how much, like, the same thing goes with a lot of these investments we do in equities. Like, you know that this company has this much money, they're working with these ones. Maybe you don't know how much they're paying specifically to which vendor and all that, and that's fine. But you know the line item of how much. The less you know, the more room for corruption. The more you know, the less ability. And what's beautiful about the industry we work in is everything can be put into code, and we can see it all there, black and white. And that's why I'm happy we did this episode using Adrena as the example, because I can see everything, and they've put a lot of effort to make sure I can see everything. And then me as a token holder, and I'm a proud token holder now that I've gone through it some more with you guys, is that I also can communicate. I know that I can communicate on chain. I can make a suggestion, they'll see it. I can make a proposal. I have 1 million tokens. I can make a proposal directly. I know how many tokens I need to have to make a proposal. I know that my proposal, even though I'm not an engineer, if somebody else was a developer, they can make a proposal to change the fees because the DAO owns the program. So from everything we've discussed, all assets, and the most important asset being the protocol itself, is owned by the DAO. So me as a holder, I have the highest level of investor protections, specifically with Adrena, and I don't know many other protocols, including all of the MetaDAO launches, that can match that level. And I will debate that with anybody.
Do you have the liability protection? Are you liable if Adrena, since you can propose changes, you could do things? Are you liable by holding the token? Do we know that? Is this important information for a DAO to communicate to its members?
That's 100% important. My understanding is I'm not based off of precedent, but we're in new territory. That's a really good question. I would think that that I'm not. I would think that anybody who has the I would think that really with the decentralized protocols, no one should have a liability, but this is a difficult world we're in.
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
Some final comments, because we need to wrap this up. We are closing into the hour. So you are about to say something? I think this liabilities versus rights DAOs have, where you can propose things and pass proposals and change the program and change the distribution of the feeds and change the team. It's great as long as there is a constitution, there are bylaws, and there are protections in place, because liability is a very real thing. And I understand in the current landscape a protocol not wanting to be a DAO because of liability. So I don't blame Flash Trade for being less of a DAO, and I don't blame Adrena for not being a perfect DAO, because this is a space that's constantly changing and is constantly improving. And I see a world where every protocol will want to be a DAO, as long as they've solved these liability issues and there is protections in place to not allow the team to use the money in any malicious way. because this is the Wild West in some cases, and you can pivot fast. You can change where you what you are funding, and it can create implications for its members. So I think there is good reason for a protocol not to want to be a DAO at the current landscape. We hope to improve this with the ICM standard, and this is why we're doing these conversations. It was very interesting today.
Yeah, it'll be interesting what the justification for a token is if you're not a DAO. A lot of protocols will get in trouble with their fundraising mechanism. Going through this, I'm really impressed with Adrena. If you go and understand the DAO and the monitor that they've set up on their website, I would give it the highest possible score across all of the investor protections that you could expect today in any of these tokens. I think the only negative I see is the concentration of ownership on the team connected to the quorum, right? So we would want the quorum to go up. That way it requires non-team members to also pass something. I think that would be very bullish in taking it all the way. But again, that's not something that is necessary. You definitely don't want to handcuff the team in being able to make decisions fast. So there's a different way to do that, right? With like the veto we discussed, that might be a better setup. But as it comes towards transparency and my controls across all protocols we discussed today, Adrena is the best.
My final comment is more likely a question. Is like if you could add one instruction to each, which these protocols came to be decentralized exchanges. One thing you will add as an instruction. Let's say Adrena do program operates to the instruction, and what will it be? What will be one major change for these self-claimed? Like it's a very funny one because they all claim to be decentralized exchanges, but there's no way in all of them to list a token. There's no permission list to list a token.
What you could probably do with the program change on Adrena, you just don't know how to.
Most likely. So yeah, that one I was going back to Mango Market instead.
Yeah, they made the instruction to make it easier for you to do it.
We need to wrap up. My machine is about to die.
So yeah, if you're a decentralized exchange, figure out how to a holder can permissionless list a token. Let's say you need 50K worth of the token itself as a eligibility, but if you claim to be a decentralized exchange, you should be figuring this out. And I see some people, I saw some tweets and stuff like people, I'm centralized, every token, we can list every token, but they don't do it. And I think it's just sarcastic. But that's one change I will, advise them. Like, it's so if this Flash trade is so inclined to use Futarchy, and it's very market-driven governance, offer the instruction to do a permissionless listing using Futarchy governance markets. Why not? I think it's a good idea and should be a good experiment. I mean, in the end of the day, everything is an experiment, so that should be a good way to improve their governance model as well.
For sure, this has to do, again, with liability and creating markets, and there is something underneath. I'm pretty sure the protocols, these decentralized exchanges, would want as many as they could.
Yeah, maybe the instructions serve as like committee bootstrap. You as a user who wants this token to be, coming live, you bootstrap some of the liquidity initially, even if it's smaller. So ideas are, endless. The ideas are endless. You just need to offer them.
I like.
So yeah.
That's the perfect segue. That's a perfect closing remark. Thank you guys for joining us. Join us next week, same time, and keep the comments coming. Keep your thoughts and responses, and
episodes is going to be soon available on wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, on our YouTube channel. Give us a follow, subscribe, and see you soon.